That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're going to talk about Fried Barry, the directorial debut of Ryan Coogler, which premiered at the 2020 Cinequest Film Festival about a year ago. It's traveled the festival circuit, and Shudder is releasing it May 7th, 2021.
You said it's his directorial debut?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like how the film opens because it says it's a Ryan Coogler thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's also based on a previous short film he did.
Oh, interesting. Okay, the basic story, it's about a man named Barry who lives in Cape Town, South Africa. Mm. And he is a boozer, a user, and a loser. The opening is him like interacting with who I presume is his wife.
Suze.
And their small child who looks like he's 6 or 7. And it's made clear Barry is not a good dad. He's absentee. He's not financially responsible. Then we see him leave for the day and start his day off at a local bar where he meets a stranger. They go back to the stranger's house and start injecting drugs. Then we see Barry leave this apartment and basically get abducted by aliens. Mm-hmm. So there's a sequence where he's being probed and prodded. Then Barry is brought back down to Earth, and his body is inhabited by an alien. And all this happens within the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So the bulk of the film is Barry, in these streets with an alien in his body. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really speak. He's acting very weird, moving very weirdly. Basically, he seems to be like very sexually appealing to people who interact with him, men and women. He ends up, and he has sexual interactions with a number of people, but one woman who he has sex with without a condom, he gets her pregnant. Mm-hmm. But this all happens in one day. Like, he ejaculates in her, and then we see her belly get big, like full term, and then she delivers like a baby. Because he is more appealing, and with this alien in his body, he goes back to his wife, and they start getting along better, having sex more often.
Over the course of like a day.
Over the course of a day. When, after a second time of them having sex, she notices that his body is very hot. And she panics, puts him in an ice bath. He's shivering uncontrollably, so she attempts to take him to the hospital. And on the way there, Barry jumps out of the car and starts running. He ends up passing out, getting admitted to the hospital. His wife and the woman who he got pregnant, who happened to be a prostitute, show up to check on him. And it shows that Barry has died. So they're mourning the loss of Barry. And he's sitting in the room covered in a white sheet when he rises from the dead. And he looks dead. And he says I want to go. So they leave. And we see Barry get sucked back up by the aliens because we see a spaceship leave. But then the final shot of the film, as the wife and the prostitute are walking, sort of commiserating, we hear a thud as if Barry fell back down to the ground. The end. Mm-hmm. Okay. What would you like to say about this film?
Well, it starts off kind of like the X-rated Fire in the Sky. Was that D.B. Sweeney? Was that the man in that movie?
I'm not sure, but it has a television announcer talking about how you have to be 18 or older to watch this film.
It's certainly trying to be provocative and push buttons on sexuality and drug use, I guess. But I guess I didn't find any of this very shocking. But it's interesting to see. I did appreciate all of the kind of homoeroticism on the sidelines.
I'll just go through my notes then. When Barry goes to the bar, the random stranger he meets who takes him back to do drugs, the guy's trying to relay a story about how Walt Disney was racist. Mm-hmm. And how the cartoons were doing blackface. I thought that was interesting / funny.
That was interesting, and I wish the film had done more of that.
Yeah,
because it's kind of hyper-kinetic in a way, because there's always something going on. There's always some, even as you were unveiling the synopsis, there are several episodes that happened in there as well.
Oh yeah.
That it's just this alien's journey in a human's body.
For the day.
Yeah.
Okay. When Barry is sucked up by the aliens and they're probing him. Okay, so two things. One, when I read about the film, I read quotes about how it's like so provocative, so violent, so erotic, and shocking. So I think my expectations were very high. And then, you know, the abduction happens pretty early on, and we see like the aliens probing Barry's like erect penis, and it looks like he's in like cat-cow position with like a cord running from his mouth out through his asshole. So I thought, oh, this is interesting. But I think because my expectations were high from the marketing I had read about it, I was let down.
I didn't know anything about this at the time. It reminded me of a lot of things I liked. I know people use the term Lynchian whenever something doesn't really seem to make sense, but it almost has that vibe. Like if David Lynch were trying to make a movie about an alien, a parasitic alien, but it just doesn't really ever go anywhere. I guess I never had the sense that there was any real point trying to be made. So then it's kind of like a trip on itself. And you might wonder if maybe Barry's hallucinating all this anyway, because there's a moment where he's in the psych ward and there's he's kind of taken under the crispy wing of these two other inmates who are trying to break out that day. And there's a huge shootout, and come to find that's all in another prisoner's mind.
Yeah.
But I think there's a definitely thing to be said about South African grunge. I was reminded of course, Cronenberg's body horror, but Die Antwoord's body of work, like their music videos, I thought of several times. Of course, especially, is it Fatty Boom Boom?
I'm not sure.
The one where they parody Lady Gaga?
I'm not sure.
Where she goes to the gynecologist and they pull that shit out of her?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I vaguely understand what you're talking about, but...
You're the one that showed me that.
But I don't recall.
Okay.
Are you surprised?
No. My Stepmother's an Alien with Kim Basinger and Dan Aykroyd, I also thought of as in this alien that has to kind of learn how to navigate the world around them by imitating images they see on television and in their interactions with other humans. Like the first woman that he has sex with, he meets... Actually, that's one of the best scenes is he goes to this nightclub and some girl is just handing out ecstasy and he takes the whole bag and downs it and then has a very jarring dance sequence, and he goes home with a woman who's very concerned that he's not making any noise while she's having sex with him.
Right, so then he starts doing this thing where he goes, woo! Woo!
And so his name's Gary Green that plays Fried Barry, and he's a stunt man.
He has a very nice body, so that would explain if he's very physical.
And, they make him look crazy. He looks kind of like if Kevin Bacon and the Crypt Keeper had a child.
That's exactly how, he looks.
But very interesting to look at and watch. So,
I agree. The best scene of the film is pretty early on, after Barry comes back down to Earth and he's high in the club, and I like the visuals. I like the music.
The score was composed by Hazer, musical artist.
The actor playing Barry, I forgot his name already, he does a really good job with his physical acting.
Gary Green. Mm-hmm.
Gary Green.
Gareth Place was the director of photography. I like the look of it. It's just, I wanted to feel more something. I wanted to, even some kind of existential ennui, like the end of Under the Skin. Like, I want to be, which you haven't seen, but it's amazing.
There is a cute scene where they're in the grocery store and...
Yeah, that is a decent scene.
Barry's kind of, because he has like his affect is, or his walk is sort of affected, so he's sort of like scooting around the grocery store looking confused, and then there's a little gay boy giving out cheese samples who's like very attracted to Barry. And then when they get into the line to pay, Barry and his wife, the cashier is like being very sexually like aggressive with
a water bottle.
With a water bottle. Mm-hmm. That was fun, I guess. Barry ends up getting out because it's just him sort of having adventures for the day, walking around, and at one point he meets like a group of thugs who beat him up senselessly for no reason at all. Then Barry's walking around and meets two other guys who convince him. Well, they don't have to convince him. They just take him to like an underpass and like give him a crack pipe. And Barry gets super high and freaks the guys out. And then Barry's flying in the air. I thought that was funny.
That was kind of fun as well.
The film has an intermission. So of note, we started this film like 4 p.m, and then you had something to do. So we didn't revisit it until 10:30 that night. And at that point I had been drinking. So the experience from, the first half to the second half were different, but I don't know that either one was better. Like, I think the ideal scenario to watch this film would be like a midnight screening or a late night screening at a cute little theater during the week after you've had dinner with some friends. It would have to be a vibe, but just sitting at home, like, who's releasing it? Shudder? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I would have enjoyed it, like, just sitting on the couch at 8 p.m. on a Friday night.
If you like a drug trip that's visualized, I think that Fried Berry is a fun exercise. But
there's also a scene where Barry, because after he's beaten up by the thugs, someone drags him to safety, and it's this man who has all these. He would appear to be like a pedophile, maybe, because he has all these kids locked in cages, and Barry sets them free. But that was a very interesting scene. But like you said, I'm not quite sure what any of it means.
Yeah, I mean, just a day in the life of Ivan Denisovich. I liked that the baby that the prostitute has ends up looking like him. When we
Yes, and he has a little ponytail that is so cute.
It's like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
It's fun. It's just, again, I don't know how much of this eventually I'll remember or wanting to revisit it. I don't know. I think Ryan Coogler is somebody whose next film I definitely would be interested in.
Yes. What would you give it?
2.5 out of 5.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5 as well. Thank you.
Bye.